So with Comic Con over today, I wanted to go over all the Comic Con news because MCU I had this big panel. Now there is one DC news that did drop, so I'm going to talk about that first. So the one big DC news is that Colin Farrell will be coming back to play the Penguin in the Batman 2, Matt Reeves' Batman 2, which I am glad to hear this. I loved him as Penguin in the first Matt Reeves' Batman movie. I'm really excited for the Penguin show. I know they showed a trailer at Comic Con. It looks really great. It looks like a great crime drama show. And I think he's just fantastic as the character, so I definitely want to see him back. I know also a couple days ago it was announced that there's going to be another Batman show in the Matt Reeves universe, and we also got the official title of his universe, calling it an epic crime saga, which definitely fits the type of story he's going for with the Batman and the Penguin show. And it's definitely further, in my opinion, confirms that he's going to finish his shows. He's going to get a Batman 3. So I'm just really excited to see Colin Farrell back as Penguin. I'm glad to hear that he's he's gonna be back as that character in the second Batman movie. So that's the one DC news I want to talk about. Now let's get into all the MCU stuff. So I'm gonna go by movies, focus on different movies and the kind of little details and tributes that were revealed about the movies. So the first movie I'm gonna talk about is Thunderbolt, since that was the movie that got revealed the less when it comes to any like news or announcements about that movie. So the only details we got from that movie is that there was a sizzle reel showed at the convention, and it showed apparently the characters like Elena going to see Red Guardian, and I guess from what I heard, the sizzle trailer is showing that they were sent kind of individually to go after Sanctuary, which is a godlike character in the comics, and that's supposedly what the actor from who's been cast from the Top Gun Maverick movie is playing. That originally the actor from Walking Dead who played Glenn was going to play but dropped out of the project. And I will say this though, it hasn't. I don't think that was ever confirmed that the guy from Walking Dead who was originally going to be playing a part that the guy from Top Gun Maverick is playing in this movie was ever. I don't think it was ever really 100% confirmed that he's playing this Sanctuary character. So I know there's been like I've seen online where the rumors going around that that's the story that they were going to be teaming up. Valentino was putting all the characters together to go after that Sanctuary character. And it sounds like I guess what was revealed detail wise is that these characters they're going after Sanctuary individually, which I think that's an interesting little detail. Whether that guy from Top Gun Maverick is actually playing that character, I'm not 100% sure on that because it was the article online sounds like he said at the convention that he's playing the character called Bob, which is the civilian identity of the Sanctuary character in the comics. So that pretty much sounds like it pretty much confirmed that's what he's playing. I guess that's what the plot will be evolved around on. And I heard this apparently there was a real look at the costumes, the new costumes for the characters. I did see the video on YouTube where you had David Harbour showing up in the Red Guardian costume, which is like, it's obviously a slightly different version than the one from the Black Widow movie, and you did see like what his new version of the costume will look like, and I thought that was really funny. On YouTube, the clip that I saw of him showing up in costume, and none of the other cast members did. So I thought that was really funny with the clip I saw on YouTube. But we didn't get too much details revealed. From what I heard, the scissor reel was great though, and I'm personally really excited for Thunderbolts. I think the idea of taking these characters, because I love mostly all these characters. Like I love Bucky Barnes. I loved with the Red Guardian character. I loved Elena. I thought she was a great character in Black Widow. I thought her and Red Guardian were really the standout characters in the Black Widow movie. And I loved U.S. Agent and Falcon and Winter Soldier. I thought he was a great new addition to the MCU. And I just overall, I love to see how these characters interact. And I also love the Valentina character, the actress from Seinfeld. I think to me, she's been a great kind of like opposite version of Nick Fury, like the bad version of the character. And I also think that I'm hoping that this movie might give, because obviously the team members we have is Red Guardian, Elena, Bucky Barnes, U.S. Agent, Ghost, and Taskmaster. And Ghost, Taskmaster are the two characters that I'm not really excited to see again. But I'm hoping maybe with this movie they give those two characters more to do, and they're more interesting in this movie than in the past movies. And overall, I just think the idea of putting all these characters together, I think you can have some fun with that. Like I know some people have compared the Thunderbolts to basically the MCU's version of Suicide Squad. I could definitely see that. Like, but I don't really have a problem with that either. Like, this is something I think could be really interesting in MCU, a team that's made up of kind of like anti-heroes, or characters that are kind of more on the bad side. I think you could have some fun with that. So it sounds like this is real. Like I said, they showed was a lot of fans got really excited after seeing this Israel, but there wasn't really any major details or like major announcements about this movie revealed. So that's why I wanted to talk about that when it came to the MCU stuff first. Now, the next MCU project I'm going to talk about is Captain America: Brave New World, and the only detail that was really revealed, and this isn't really something major personally for me. I've seen this online where there was rumors going around that the Eternals, the Cecil that turned the stone in Eternals was going to be where adamantium was discovered, which is stuff that gets put in the woman's body in the comics. And it basically sounds like they've turned it into a summit island where different governments are going after it to to basically take some of the adamantium to probably just sell it for money or use it as a weapon. So this is like details I already kind of like what knew about that's been like rumored online. So I don't think there was really anything majorly revealed. They showed footage at the convention I heard where they showed more of Red Hawk. And it sounds like the VFX from what people saw looked great. Sounds like the footage was great. Harrison Ford had a comment saying the movie turned out to be great. It was doesn't really do anything for me because an actor's gonna say that, but I've been really excited for this movie. Like I thought the trailer for Captain America: Brave New World was fantastic. It did what a trailer should. I talked about in my past video how that was a great first trailer. I love the Winter Soldier vibes are going for with this movie. And also personally, I thought Anthony Mackie, I think he's been great as Falcon. And I personally, even though I didn't love Falcon and Winter Soldier show, and I feel like the 6 episode structure is what hurt it. Like I enjoyed it, but I didn't love it. I do think that show did a good job of showing why he's different from Steve Rogers. He talked about this at an interview at the Comic Con convention where Steve Rogers was a muscle bound, was like a more muscle bound type character because he's a super soldier. But you have a character like Falcon, he's just a human. And I love the idea in the Falcon and Winter Soldier show. They kind of showed how things is tougher for him. He's not super strong. He's not superhuman. So it's more of a challenge for him. I also love the fact that they showed in the Falcon and Winter Soldier show with the villain, the girl, how he talked to her before he tried to fight her. Because you go back to his first appearance in Winter Soldier, he was a counselor to his soldiers, and I do think they did a good job of showing he's not like Steve where he just jumps straight into action when it comes to beating the bad guy or bad girl, basically the villain. That he's different from Steve Rogers. And I think that's an element of why Steve Rogers picked him at the end of Endgame. And I love the idea of just seeing a movie where Anthony Mackie can really, where he really have his character come up to the forefront and really show why really Steve picked him. Like to me, Falcon and Soldier was about him accepting the shield. And I just love the fact when we get a movie where it really shines on him as Captain America. And I think that movie's gonna set up. I think that movie's gonna set up definitely the idea of like a new Avengers when Harrison Ford's character General Ross talking about putting Captain America back as an official government agent or soldier. I think that movie's gonna set up some Avengers stuff, some future stuff. And I think Anthony Mackie just has a lot of charm as a character Falcon. I think he's a very likable character you root for. And I personally do find his character really compelling. So nothing major revealed, like details about the adamantium and the Celestial that was turned to stone in Eternals, that being a big plot element of the new Captain America movie. You already kind of knew that from the trailer that came out, so there's really nothing that was majorly revealed about this movie that you didn't already really know before. The next project I'm going to talk about is the Fantastic Four movie, which I'm really excited for. As someone who loves the Fantastic Four, who in the comics, they're the first family in the comics, Marvel Comics, they're called that. As someone who, like I said, loves those characters, to me, there's never been a good Fantastic Four movie. No offense, if you enjoyed the Fox movies, love them, fantastic. I'm jealous. But for me, I never felt like the Fox got the spirit of the characters. I never felt like they really got the characters. I love Chris Evans as Human Torch. I thought Michael Chiklis was great as a thing, but outside of those casting decisions, I just felt to me they didn't like nail the other characters. I just feel like they didn't really get the comics, the Fox movies. Tim Story I thought treated it way too goofy and silly for me. Because yes, there's some fun with the Fantastic Four, but it just for me personally, I never felt like the whole cast matched chemistry in those Tim Story movies. And the Fantastic Four 2015 reboot I thought was also bad. I think the one that was never released was also bad. So I'm excited to see a good Fantastic Four movie. Plus, you have the person who did WandaVision, which to me is one of the best things of the multiverse saga. So to me, it's like coming off of WandaVision, I'm like, yeah. And that show was kind of had a family element in that show. You had Vision, Wanda, and their kids. We did have a family element with WandaVision that I thought was handled really well in that show, which is an important element in the Fantastic Four. And we know from the pieces they released online, those art pieces, that this movie is going to take place in the 1960s in New York. So they're going to be from a different reality. It's going to have a retro vibe, so I'm really excited about that. But the two big things that got revealed about Fantastic Four, there was three things, but this thing I already talked about in a past video where they showed footage at Comic Con, and the thing I talked about in a past video is that in this footage they showed at Comic Con and they showed the accurate glasses, but I already talked about that as one of my topics in my past video because there was a drone show at Comic Con on Friday that showed during the drone show, which was where they had a screening for Deadpool, and they showed like in fireworks like glasses head with you can tell from that it's gonna be comic accurate. So I don't really find that news part to be all that big. And like I said, I already talked about that. Two big things personally for me that was revealed about Fantastic Four is they have a title now, which is going to be called Fantastic Four First Steps, which I love the title. Again, I will say this though, I don't really care about titles. I talked about my past videos. Titles don't really matter to me personally. But I think this does. I think this is a great title that like fits the characters. They just out like the thing about Fantastic Four to me is that yes, they're dysfunctional family, but they're also characters that deal heavily in science, and it gives it a very NASA like astronaut feel with the title, which I love. It gives it kind of like like a feel when it comes to like science and the stuff that I feel like the Fox movies didn't really get either. So I love the title. And the other big thing is that the Fantastic Four are going to be in those two Avengers movies, which I'm not surprised to hear that. And, this, like I said, it was real that they're from another reality. I think they're going to play a big role in those two movies. And obviously, Secret War is going to be the end of the multiverse saga. So I think they're definitely going to, like I said, play a big role in those movies. So it's great to hear that. And I'm definitely curious to what the sizzle, like the footage they showed. I don't know, I guess it would be a sizzle wheel, but the footage they showed, I'm definitely curious. I wish I saw fans saw at that Comic Con convention, but it sounds like the footage was great. But those were the two bigger major reveals about Fantastic Four. Is that the movie's officially gonna be called Fantastic Four First Steps, and that they're gonna be in the next two Avengers movies. And great to hear that. Now the next projects is going to be the Avengers movies, which is obviously the big MCU when it comes to like the biggest franchise. It's the Avengers movies. They're like the big gigantic event movies, the Super Bowl movies. If I use a sport analogy, and there was some big reviews when it comes to the Avengers movies. Oh, one more Captain America detail I forgot. And I guess this would be a major review. I forgot to talk about this with the Captain America session. Is that Giancarlo Esposito's character was revealed where he's playing a villain called Side Wielder, which I'm probably pronouncing the villain's name wrong, but apparently in the comics he's the leader of the Sylphin Society. And the reason I didn't really talk about that that I didn't talk about that news because I'm not really too familiar with the Soviet Society group in the comics and the leader of the group in the comics, that Gino Carlsononi Espinosa. I don't pronounce his name anymore. I'm sorry about that. I'm not really too familiar with that character from the comics. I don't really have any thoughts on that news. So that's the reason why I didn't really talk about that. And I did kind of forget about it for a second there. But it's not, I don't really find that to be major news because I'm not really too familiar with the characters. I don't really have any thoughts on that news when it came to Captain America Brave New World. But when it comes to the Avengers news, the first thing that was first big news is that they changed the title for the first Avengers movie. It's not going to be called King Dynasty. I remember hearing reports that they took that title off anyway. And with everything going on, with I can't remember the name of the actor, but the actor who played King in the Loki seasons and in Ant-Man Wasp Quantumania and played the bad guy in Creed 3, with all the accusations going on with him, and Marvel got rid of the actor. I know some of his agents got rid of him too. I kind of had a feeling they were going to move on from Kang with them getting rid of that actor. I mean, there was a chance where I thought they might recast, and there still is. There's still, you know, maybe they will recast the character, but I feel like either way, the next news I'm going to talk about, the next two big news, I just kind of confirms even more that they're just gonna like drop the Kang character completely. And if you watch the end of Loki season 2, they do have a way to like just get rid of the character, because at the end of Loki season 2 they talked about how Owen Wilson's character talked about how like they're dealing with all the different Kangs. So the end of Loki season 2 does have an exit for them to like kind of move on from the Kang character. I also think there's just other reasons besides the actor, and that is, even if you recast the character, I'm going to be honest, I don't think Kang's really clicking for people. I do love the versions of the characters we saw in the Loki seasons, but I just don't feel like people were really excited for the build up with the character. Like when you go back to Infinity Saga and you see Thanos at the end of the first Avengers, him turning to the camera smiling, people were right on board, already excited to see when Thanos is going to pop up. I didn't feel that with Kang. He was introduced in a Disney Plus show. And also, I think a gigantic mistake, and I think this is the biggest mistake the MCU has ever made, is having a version of that character who's one of the most powerful versions get beaten by Ant-Man of all characters, and Ant-Man Wasp Quantumania, and also beaten by ants. I really don't think that was. I think that was the biggest misstep in MCU's history, personally for me. Where I think that was a gigantic mistake. I think it made his character look kind of like weak. So I just feel like there's like other factors to why they're moving on from the Kane character. And the title for this movie pretty much, like I said, confirms it even further. This is the title for this movie. This is the first big thing is that it's being called Doomsday. So it won't be called King Dynasty anymore. It's going to be called Avengers Doomsday, and then you have Secret Wars after that. And this confirms even further. I think they're just going to completely drop the Kane character. And this gets into the second part of the news I'm really excited about, is that Doctor Doom is going to be the main villain of Avengers Doomsday, which is why I call it Avengers Doomsday, which I love this news. I love the character Doctor Doom, and he's like the Fantastic Four to me personally, where I don't feel like there's been a good version of Doctor Doom at all. I think the Tim Story movies to me screwed up the character personally and treated him like a generic, bland, forgettable villain. Like, when I think of Doctor Doom, this is a character who's a ruler of his own country. He's a villain in the comics, but he does stuff for his country to protect it. Like, there's depth to his character. He's not just a generic, like, villain who's just, like, about, like, destroying the world. And there's, like, more to that character. Like, he's like a Thanos character. He's like, to me, he's like a Magneto character. When you think about what makes Magneto a great villain, it's because he has a lot of depth towards the character when you think of Magneto. He's not just a villain out to destroy the world. And I felt like Tim Story's Fantastic Four movies treated Doom just like a very generic, just very bland villain to me. where he came off like just one of those generic forgettable villains to me in the Tim Story ones. And the 2015 Fantastic Four movie did a shitty job with that character too. Same with the Fantastic Four movie that was never released in theaters. That to me was just a very goofy, silly interpretation. So I'm hoping we'll get a good version of Doctor Doom with Sleaze. And to the next news, which is Robbie Downey Jr. is announced to be playing a multiverse version of Doctor Doom. He's coming back not as Iron Man, which this was this definitely was the biggest news. Like I didn't see this coming at all. Like I heard rumors online. So there was some stories a couple days ago, rumors online where it was saying that he's gonna Robbie Jr. is coming back to play Doom, and I didn't really believe the rumors because I was like, that seems like really crazy. And no, it's been announced he's coming back to play a version of Doctor Doom, Doctor Von Doom. Which I love this idea. I think he's a great actor, Robbie Downey Jr. And I think him playing a villain could be really interesting. Like it also allows him to come back without ruining Iron Man's death. You still have Iron Man dead. You still keep that iconic death canon in MCU, and you just have him back as a different villain. Which I love that idea. I think he can make a great villain. And like I said, I hope this is I hope this is like where we finally see a good interpretation of Doom. Like give me a Doom that really shows why he's a great villain in comics. And in the comics, like I said, he has depth in the comics. He has layers. There's layers to the character in the comics. He's a ruler of his own country. He does stuff for his country. He's a much more layered villain than what the Fox versions, in my opinion, did with that character. Personally, for me. So I love this idea of him playing Doctor Doom. I saw the video on YouTube. I thought that was great how the reveal was. Where he shows up and I know in the comics and anime stuff, like Doctor Doom has this kind of Doom bots that are these like robots that look like Doctor Doom. And at the convention, the videos like all the people in like Doom costumes and Robbie Downey Jr. in a Doom costume and taking the mask off. I thought that was really a fun reveal from what I saw from what I watched on YouTube. I thought that was a great way to reveal it. And I think people just I think people are excited to see him back. And I think that adds some excitement towards the MCU when it comes to making people more excited for his next two Avengers movies. So the last topic I'm going to talk about when it comes to the Avengers stuff is that the Russo brothers have been confirmed to become back to direct the next two Avengers movies, Avengers Doomsday and Avengers Secret Wars, which is great to hear. There was reports going around that they were in talks, but it's been officially confirmed they are coming back, which I think is great news for both sides. The Russo brothers, I think it's great for them because I think they can use some hits because they've delivered four great Marvel movies, but after they left the MCU, a lot of the movies have been kind of mediocre to terrible. Like they did the movie Cherries, I thought it was okay. Gray Man, I thought it was okay. Like to me, they really haven't made that many good movies since they stopped doing the Marvel movies. So I think it's good for them. And I think this is great news for Marvel because to me it shows that Kevin Feige wants to make sure these Avengers movies, we need to land them. Because out of all the franchises in the MCU, the Avengers movies are like the Super Bowl movies for Marvel. Like if I use a sports analogy, they're the ones that you're building up to. They're the ones that are like going to be the end of this saga. To me, you need to get directors that you trust to land these movies. And the Russo brothers, they've delivered four great Marvel movies. You look at their track record: Winter Soldier, Civil War, Infinity War, Endgame. Endgame being the second biggest movie of the year, and it was the biggest movie of the year until Avatar was re-released. So they delivered four big hits critically and financially for Marvel. And I think people feel a lot more comfortable with them directing them based on their track record and not like a new director. So I think this is great news to see them back. And I think this also to me shows that the MCU is heading on the right track of trying to get back to the quality of most of their movies. I talked about my review how I love Deadpool and Wolverine. I think to me, and look, when it comes to the multiverse saga, I don't think all of it's been bad. I think they've had some good stuff. Like I love the Loki show. I loved Miss Marvel. I thought Shang-Chi was a great introduction, a great origin movie for a new character. And I actually have liked some of the new characters. Now, there's been some mediocre stuff. There's definitely been more, more missed than hit, not as consistent quality-wise as you want Infinity Saga, and it's definitely been bumpy. And I loved WandaVision. I thought that was great too. So they have done some good stuff, but they've been more missed than hit with the Multiverse Saga. I do think this shows how, and Bob Iger to say, we're focused on quality right now. And Kevin Feige not being as stressed as thin and having him really be involved in all the projects again, I think this is a sign they really are getting back on track. And I think putting Russo Brothers direct these is definitely a smart decision. Because, like I said, you need these Avengers movies to land. The Multiverse Saga started off rocky, but I think there's some signs that show that maybe they're getting back to being more consistent with the quality. Because the Infinity Saga, yeah, they had some movies that were just okay, but it'll be once in a while. You know, you look back at Infinity Saga, they were making good to great movies constantly. Like they had an okay movie once in a while, like an Iron Man 2 for me, or Thor the Dark World, or Second Guardians. But overall, to me, when I look back at the Infinity Saga, they never made a bad movie, and the quality was always good to great consistently when it comes to track record wise, and them making good to great movies more consistently. We're having one movie once in a while that was okay, and I feel like them putting them as Avengers directors again. I feel like this is like MCU. I feel like they're on a way track to get back to where they were at. And I'm not surprised with them directing these two movies, also because the Russo brothers have talked about this in past interviews that the one comic movie they would direct is a Secret Wars movie, which is going to be the second Avengers movie and then the Multiverse Saga. They've talked about how they love the comic, and that's the one comic movie they would come back to direct if they were asked to. So that's the reason why I'm not surprised they're coming back. And also, I think, look, they've shown in these, you go back to Civil War and the two Avengers movies, they show they can handle a large cast of characters. So overall, I feel just personally really excited, very optimistic. I'm glad MCU is heading a new direction with Doom being a villain. I'm excited to see Robert Downey Jr. play a version of Doom when it comes to a version of Victor Von Doom. So to me, this is all exciting news. Like I can't wait for all these movies. I think the MCU to me, I put a Facebook post about this. I think the MCU, if they can get going again, if they can make a good to great movie with Brave New World, and then the next movie's good to great after that, and they do like three in a row, I think they could definitely get back to where they're at. Like to me, if we can have like an MCU that starts clicking again consistently, and the DC universe starts off really good with James Gunn's DC universe in 2025, I think the idea of having like two universes that could really go strong would be really exciting as a fan. I'm pulling for both sides when it comes to like DC and Marvel. And I'm always rooting for the underdog too. I you look at the MCU and you look at those the Infinity Saga. It was no studios was able to pull off what the MCU did with the Infinity Saga. And yeah, they kind of got into a bumpy stress, but I feel like like I said, there's signs showing that they can make a comeback. And it's like like a sports team where you win the Super Bowl. The MCU had a great stress with the Infinity Saga, won the Super Bowl and Endgame, and then they had a bit of a bumpy stress starting off. This era, but I do think in the home stretch towards the end of this multiverse saga, I do see the MCU getting back to where they were at. So and I also think this helps with the whole idea of people saying it's comic fatigue. I think this also helps with that if you have two studios that have a healthy competition and MCU gets going again. I just think personally this is just all exciting news for MCU. I think this is all good news for the MCU. I think this is all news showing the MCU is heading in the right direction of trying to get back on track, and hopefully they deliver. I'm pulling for MCU, and I hope because I'm a Marvel fan. I love these characters, and I'm you know I'm pulling for the MCU. So hopefully they execute and deliver on all these movies. So that's all my thoughts on the Comic Con news today. Until next time, movie fans.